All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got another game here on the Balance Test mod. Big shout out to these guys. It's actually, you guys have no idea. It is so difficult for me to get pro gamers to come and play a couple of games on these test mods. This is one of the reasons why Blizzard is going to add a matchmaking queue for this. But I have to say, I really appreciate these guys coming to play. It has been so hard for me to get people, not just to cast, but for me to play again so that we could look at these, at the balance test. And I just think it's so important that we get as many games out there as possible so that we can all form logical opinions. I think what we've seen so far has been pretty cool, but another big thanks. Please send these guys some love. Check out RayRain on twitch.tv/RayRain, our Protoss player, High GM, and our High GM Terran player, Jason. Check him out on twitch.tv/JuggernautJason. We're playing on Daybreak. This is the new balance test mod. If you don't know what the patch changes are, check it out on the Battle.net website or look at any of the previous videos that I've made. I've already put up quite a few now of the balance test mod. So if this is the first one you're watching for some reason, I'll be talking about units as they come out, but I'm not going to go over everything at the start. So they made a lot of changes. We're going to see some mech this game. I did instruct one of the players. I'm like, look, you got to do some mech. I want to see it. I need to see how RayRain reacts. And these are both very good players from North America. Jason qualified for WCS. Him and he made it into he qualified from the ladder qualifier into the ladder bracket. But both of these guys are very good up and coming players, I would say. And I'm hoping to see them compete a lot next year. Hopefully, if the WCS system gets tightened up a bit more, it'll be a little bit easier. Anyway, one thing we haven't seen yet in any of these games is the battlecruiser change, which I'm very excited for many obvious reasons. I think the battlecruiser buff is important. I want to see it. I want to see some of the blinking battlecruisers and all the jazz, all the great things that they do. So we shall see. So no real big changes here. With this reactor factory opening, I think what we could see is maybe a fast opening of reactored cyclones. So if you guys didn't know, the Cyclone can now be built without a tech lab. So you can reactor build Cyclones. They, like we've talked about, they can no longer shoot air. Their lock-on does like 40% of the normal damage it used to do against air. So the lock-on is very weak against air. So Cyclone is no longer a primary anti-air unit. It is like a light anti-air unit. But yeah, it's going to be Cyclone reactor. You could build Cyclones very quickly with this setup, which is pretty dope. So we'll see how he's going to use them, where he'll use them. In my games that I've played, I've found that Stargate builds are extremely difficult to deal with when you play with Cyclones because the anti-air is so weak. One Cyclone does not do enough damage to kill a Phoenix with the full duration of its lock-on. So it's certainly something that gets a bit tricky. But the first two Cyclones are out. And like I said, their attack has been changed. It is 6 damage versus armored, 3 normally. And they attack at 0.07. Every 0.07 seconds, they shoot. So when you see these bad boys attack, let's just say we're going to get up to 88 miles an hour real quick, Doc. Quick robotics bay, though, so maybe we'll see some cheeky fast disruptors or a Colossus. Who knows? As you can see, Cyclones attack extremely fast. And this Cyclone opening, very difficult to deal with. Now, if both Cyclones lock on to the mothership core, they can kill it, but one of them is not enough. So it's going to pull everything to push these Cyclones back. Some Hellions could have really done a number, but some very solid early Cyclone push there. Now, there were more workers. There's still more workers on the map for RayRain, but that was a bit of an aggressive play. And, oh, another change. You don't need the fusion core anymore to get Banshee speed. So we have an extremely fast Hyperflight rotor opening. So it's basically Hellion Cyclone Hyperflight rotor opening for Jason. So the Cyclones stay on the map. They poke a little bit. We have Warp Prism speed on the way from Gravitic Drive. And I don't know if he's going to follow it up. Okay, it's going to be Disruptor drops. But these Cyclones are going to put the pressure on. Oh, that pylon very low. Of course, you see that DPS is insane. He's going to throw the Adept Shades, overcharges. He wants to kill the Cyclones. I think he can lock them with the Adept here if he gets into position. And I think he should be able to kill one of the Cyclones at least. Yeah. Of course, the Cyclones, without the lock-on working against ground units anymore, the Cyclone is extremely vulnerable and weak to fast ground units that can chase it. So it's even worse against Zerglings than it used to be. Even though it has more health, it's the odds of them being able to get away because of their movement speed that they lost is big deal. But the Banshee harass has begun. So we see the Banshee moving in. In case you guys didn't know, Banshees have actually always beaten Stalkers 1v2. So you need quite a few Stalkers to effectively deal with them. Pylon overcharge will also be necessary. The Prism is going to go back across the map. He does have the Disruptor, and he's going to throw out the Nova. Gets the Widowmine and a few SCVs. Noise! Catch there from the Protoss player. These couple of Hellions are going to be running back towards the natural expansion. We're seeing a little bit of that Mecharino as these Hellions make their way over. Oh, there's nothing here! And the probes begin to die. Now, the Banshee does have its speed upgrade done, so we're going to be seeing it move so damn fast very quickly, but 2 Stalkers, more than enough to catch it without Cloak. And another Banshee is over here by the third base, putting the pressure onto Ray Rain as he tries to weather the storm of this meching Terran player, but the Disruptor gets another big shot off. A couple of the Adepts still fighting strong. The auto turret with its damage boost, it got an extra 8 damage to the auto turret added. It's still very strong. Of course, the Adepts can fight against the Hellions, but ooh, lock-on being used against that Observer, and the Banshee still attacking the third base. We really get to see all the multitasking and harass that can still be done even when you're playing in these early mech scenarios with the new StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void Balance map. So, pretty sick. And shout out to the guy in the chat, not a Twitch username. Shout out to you, man. Nobody ever cares that I always use the proper name for upgrades, man. Advanced Ballistics, Hyperflight Rotors, Magfield Accelerator, Neo Steel Frame. No one ever cares that I use the proper upgrade names when I'm casting professional tournaments. Alright? You know what Artosis calls it? He calls it the bunker upgrade. Feels bad, man. Oh, these 2 Cyclones could lock on. Now, see, it's very important because the lock-on is no longer automatic. So just so you guys know, there is actually skill required. Almost getting that Prism, by the way. Oh, no! He didn't keep moving. Rip. Rip, Baby Rage. So Dank Shrine is on the way now. A Stargate. Now, the third base is extremely late for Jason. So, for all the harass that he did, he's still behind in workers. But that Banshee's still getting some work done. Of course, it moves extremely fast. Whoop, whoop. It's like your Deion Sanders Banshee. No, it's more of a LaDainian Tomlinson Banshee, to be honest. He's got that fast break ability. Or Leon Washington Banshee. I feel when Leon Washington doesn't play for my team anymore. Anyway, I digress. Jason's going to move out to take the third base. Dark Templar do have a blink ability that can be researched, so that is an important thing to keep in mind. It's very possible that we're going to see something along those lines throughout the course of this game. And the Banshee is going to be coming back over towards the main expansion. We're going to see the Templar Archives and the Dark Shrine both building at the same time, coming in on the probes. We do have a single Phoenix here in position with this Observer to deal with the Banshee. Even if it had Cloak, it wouldn't be enough. So the Phoenix should be able to kill it. Of course, the Phoenix still moves much faster than a Speed Banshee. Banshees on speed can't outrun Phoenix. Sorry, guys. Don't do drugs. Third Nexus up and running. We've got the gas being taken now. Dark Templar is on the way. And he's going to start the research. So Shadow Stride, Dark Templar, allow them to teleport to a nearby target location. And that is maybe something that'll be a little bit more effective against mechs since the army's less mobile. The DT's inside of the third base, actually. Already 2 kills. Picking up, hacking and slashing and whacking. All the mules getting cleaned out. Now, there are Ravens for Jason. Ravens, very important. We do have a lot of tanks. And that's the other big change. We talked about the Cyclone this game, but the Siege Tank, it does 70 damage while sieged. Basically, they made the Siege Tank, you know, they basically went back in time and prevented them. Blizzard went back in time, and they prevented themselves from neutering the Siege Tank from Brood War. That's basically what you've got here. So the Siege Tank can't be picked up while it's sieged. It can while it's unsieged. But you can no longer lift up Siege Tanks while in siege mode. However, they now do their full unneutered damage. Basically, imagine like you never spayed your cat. Like that's what this new Siege Tank is. All right, it's got its full primal ferocity back. It is extremely scary. These Hellions trying to dance around the map, but there are a good number of Stalkers. Of course, this blink upgrade does not work for the Stalker. He hasn't actually gotten the actual Stalker blink upgrade, but these Hellions pushing over towards the east side, running around. But yeah, the Dark Shrine, it's currently bugged. Actually, no, it's not bugged. You can chrono it. Never mind. I was going to say, I remember you couldn't chrono it before. Hellion's not able to get any harassing. I love the Archon usage here. So, let's see. Storm is coming in. The DT blink upgrade will be done soon. And I like how the sensor tower can see both of these pylons as Jason gets a 4th command center up. So, his army Cyclones, very good against Stalkers. Siege Tanks, very good against everything now. So we will see what happens. Yeah, but unlike your cat, also, if you know, the Siege Tank can't actually get pregnant and make baby tanks. That'd be cool, though. I'm not opposed to that. Ghost Academy, a couple of extra barracks. So Jason's gonna have want some EMPs for his Mecherino army. Now, I wonder if we're gonna see any DT usage since the blink upgrade is done. Now, the Zealots have charge. They did get a speed buff. They got about a 7 or 8% speed buff with charge. I guess I should say charge got buffed. So they move faster than normal. And when they're charging, they also move faster. So the Zealots just have a much easier time closing in on units. We can see that the Cyclone can actually fight Zealots in this patch, but it's still a little bit tricky. Ooh, Widowmine. Just take out one of those Adepts and getting some good splash. But basically, they tried to give a little bit more utility, more reason to build Zealots. Oh, some of these units getting bled out by Ray Rain. As you guys can see, those +1 tanks, they do 75 damage. At +3 attack, Siege Tanks do 85 damage versus Armored. That is insane. This is, like I said, we Brood War now, boys. So the Siege Tanks, normally in like Heart of the Swarm, you'd like, oh, I'm just going to A-move like 6 or 7 Immortals with like 10, 20 Blink Stalkers, and this is easy. No, the Siege Tanks would actually kill that army right now. They also had the Ravens for PDD. They got the Hellbats. And Vikings do bonus damage to mechanical units when they're landed. So Vikings are actually really good because they beat Stalkers 1v1 now. It's pretty sick. I think this patch and all these changes are just absolutely the bee's knees, right? You know, it's I think this stuff is awesome. So he's building up this massive, powerful army. He's getting ghosts. And the Protoss, oh my god, guys, was someone talking about Brood War? Well, we have Tempests in this game, which are still pretty good because we already seen in one of the previous videos I made their ability to close areas of the ground off. They can cut off choke points. They can prevent mining. But obviously, the Carrier is also a unit that we might see here. Now, for those of you who don't know, part of this patch change, well, there's the DTs. Keep in mind, they do have that ability to blink. But the Carrier Interceptors now cost, I think it's like 10 minerals or 5 minerals. It used to be 25 per Interceptor. But Interceptors are dirt cheap, so that's one thing that's going to be very important to keep in mind. These DTs, I think he blinked a little liberally there. But now the DTs are going to go ham inside of the main, inside of the natural. Widowmine's going to kill this one, but the one inside of the main base is going ham. SCVs being swatted down left, right, and center. Now, of course, the blink is available, so when the Raven comes over, he can try to use this to get away. Oh, okay, he just wanted to snipe another SCV before he died. So that's what the blink can also be used for. In a scenario where you know the DT will die because there's a Raven, you could just dive onto one last worker. So it's just giving you a little bit more utility. We do have a Tempest on the way, and Jason is ready to push his +2 mechs on the way. He's got a lot of Vikings, Ravens already in position with the Ghosts for the EMPs. He scans and he says, that army doesn't scare me, man. You don't have that many Tempests. In fact, you don't have any Tempests. Storm is on the field, but these Siege Tanks are so powerful. Ooh, the friendly fire is really bad though too. That's another important thing I guess I forgot about. If you can Zealot bomb the Siege Tanks, they do so much friendly fire to your own units because of that tank damage buff. An EMP does land, but great spread on this army. And we're really getting to see, this is it. This is the new TvP dance. See these Vikings on the ground. They want to help soak against those units and push away the Zealots, but this is that dance of the mech ball pushing forward. Now, I would love to see the Tempest use its ability on the ground where the Siege Tanks are. There we see it. It is going to prevent the tanks from moving in this position, but Jason wants to push in no matter what. The Archons and the Immortals are going to push back. The landed Vikings all get crushed, and the anti-air has been extremely limited. Now the Siege Tanks still do a tremendous amount of damage to the Immortals, so I don't know who's going to win this fight, but the Immortals still have the unit count lead to push this army back. And of course, we talked about this Disruption Web. It does, or Disruption Sphere, excuse me. It does 450 damage over 32 seconds. It is extremely powerful against immobile units. It affects buildings, it affects workers, and it affects army units. So it is extremely powerful. These tanks are going to try to hold the door now, but I think he's going to need to land some EMPs all over this army. Okay, so the Immortals are losing all of their shields. Now the Siege Tanks are going to have a much better time against these Immortals, as they do 80 damage a shot right now. So the Tempest count continues to be built. Switching into Marauders, I think that was an accident. I think he's trying to build Widow Mines, but he has his hotkey. Does he have his hotkey on Marauders? Those aren't going to help you, dude. 3 Marauders without any upgrades, Stim or Concussive Shell. Lol, KekXD. Okay, anyway, more tanks, more Hellions, +3 vehicle weapons, and more Tempests. So The trade-off is that the Tempests have that ability that works against ground units. However, the Tempest can only attack at 6 range against ground. So the Tempest can no longer shoot siege tanks if there's a missile turret nearby, pretty much. Missile turrets have more range than a Tempest. So you can no longer just pick units off for free from a far distance. They do have 15 range against air units, though. So they're still very good against Liberators. They're a great way to deal with Liberators. They're a great way to deal with Vikings, Battle Cruisers. They do that extra damage versus massive. But he's going to move out again. I think he threw an EMP there on that Observer. Now, keep in mind, the mech army's a bit immobile. So we have these Zealots and these DTs coming in. And they're going to clean up this base in the northwest. Ray Rain does have the ability to use that blink. He can chase SCVs. Well, there's... Oh, okay. I was like, why is there 9? This doesn't look oversaturated, but it was actually the workers coming from the other base. So Jason's base at the 3rd is actually getting cleaned up. This is where we see that slow, immobile mech army is having a bit of a difficult time catching up. And, I mean, honestly... The people that are coming out there that have been looking at these patch notes and saying, guys, this looks boring. I think this game's been pretty exciting. It's been pretty cool to see this back and forth. The harass from the Protoss player. I mean, we're basically just going back. We're flipping things on their head from the way that StarCraft 2, Wings of Liberty, and Heart of the Swarm were, where it was the Terran constantly harassing a Protoss. Now they're both harassing each other, and they both have really powerful Tier 3. Carriers are on the way. Now, once we see one, I'll be able to point it out to you, but the Interceptor has been made dirt cheap. They lost the ability to release Interceptors, but in exchange, Interceptors are almost free now. They are extremely cheap to build. So if you lose all your Interceptors to a couple Widow Mines, you're not going to run out of minerals anymore. You will no longer lose your whole bank of resources building Interceptors. So Ray Rain, he sees that army coming from the north side. Of course, his army's becoming slower as well. That's kind of the cool thing about this mech situation. As the Terran army gets slower with these tanks, these ghosts, you know, the siege ups and whatnot, the Tempests that counter them are also very slow. Now, Carriers, I think the build time is still a little bit long. I'd love to see Blizzard reduce the build time because it's basically really tough to do this. But is he going to throw the disruption spheres all over the siege tank line? He could force them all to unsiege, hitting a lot of the siege tanks, and we can see that damage is starting to spread out. We do have the Immortals and the Archons on the bottom to unleash the pain. He's forced to unsiege and fall back, taking some huge losses is Jason. That's the power of the new Tempest. These siege tanks forced to dislocate themselves, of course. He does not have any more Tempest off cooldown, but he needs to be careful. Those Zealots, we talked about their speed boost. They're going to dive right on top of the siege tanks. They are so strong. The Archon hitting the Vikings. And we could see Ray Rain take out Jason right here, right now, before the Carriers even come into it. But now they are coming, as you guys can see. Interceptor costs 5 minerals. It's dirt cheap. The 4th base has been broken, and I think that's going to be GG. Ray Rain takes this PVT, and I think this has just been so awesome. I really enjoy seeing all of this. I think this is so cool. I absolutely love all of these changes. In games like this, I'm going to have so much fun casting these. I really hope we can get these changes pushed through. I'm not going to tell you what to think. Form your own opinions off of what you've seen, what you think looks weak, what you think looks strong. But please just try to be as objective as possible. You know, try to understand that we're trying to make StarCraft better. And it's not about what race is strong or which race isn't. We can always tweak the numbers if, you know, 5 minerals is too cheap and 10 is better. That doesn't matter. The point is, does cheaper Interceptors help? Obviously, we didn't see that in this game. You know, maybe you could say that the Tempest, you could say that anti-ground ability, be like, oh, it's too strong, get rid of it. Come on, we can do better than that. You know, is 450 damage? Maybe we lower the DPS a bit. Is that too strong? Maybe it's not strong enough. So I think all stuff like that is really important. So please do your best to try and give good constructive feedback on all of this. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this series.